Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tejano Virtual Events. Thank you all for being here. We're going to have some great information to share with you today. In today's session, we'll be learning about the EPCC Writing Center and the EPCC Center for Students with Disabilities. They'll be presented by Ms. Zuniga and Mr. Estrada. Before I hand it over to our presenters, I would like to mention that this session will be recorded, so you can come back to it later, or anybody who missed this session can come back and see it. Also, I want to remind everybody that this event will provide the Tejano Passport points. We will post a code on the chat towards the end of our session, and if you have any questions on the Tejano Passport points, please let us know at the end. We'll be happy to help with any questions or any problems you might be having. So now at this time, please mute your mics for our best sound experience. Otherwise, the feedback could interfere with the information we're about to share. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to our presenter, Ms. Zuniga, so she can tell us about the awesome writing centers. Thank you.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So, hi, my name is Vanessa. I'm the academic resource specialist for the Valle Verde Writing Center. So, mostly I'll tell you all a little bit more about the Valle Verde Writing Center, our virtual operations, and I'll tell you a little bit about the other campuses centers as well. So, this is kind of the things that we'll be covering today. I'll give you a little bit about what the Writing Center is, what we do, how we can help. What a session might look like with one of our tutors, how to visit us, some of the resources we have, and how to contact us as well. So what is the Writing Center? Our sessions are collaborative. Our ultimate goal is to help you all become better writers, editors, and readers. We hope to help you improve your skills. We can help at any point in your writing process. So if you get an assignment and you're not sure how to begin, you're not sure what it is your instructor is looking for or how to even begin, we can help you with understanding the prompt as well as brainstorming for what it is you want to write for the class. We can help you look over your drafts. We can help you look over grammar, as well as different citation formats, so like MLA, APA, Chicago, and even AP format. While we are for classes, we can also help you with things that aren't for class as well. So if you write creatively, if you are working on a scholarship application, a job application, your resume, we can also help you with that as well. And technically, we are the Reading and Writing Center. So if you want to help yourself develop better reading skills, we can also help you with that as well. So we recommend that you don't show up right before class if it is for a class assignment, just because this doesn't give you the time to really make any of the corrections or suggestions that we offer to you before the assignment is due. So sometimes we have some students that come in 5 minutes before the assignment is due, and then they're like, well, I just need a proof, but then they're not able to actually apply some of the things that we offer to them. We usually recommend that you come in a day before the assignment might be due. Most tutoring sessions are about 15 to 30 minutes, just depending on what it is specifically that you would like help with. We usually ask that you have 3 things that you want us to focus on in the session. So for example, it could be the citation formatting, it could be grammar. If you feel like you're having a hard time with run-on sentences, you can communicate that with the tutor, and then they'll focus a little bit more on those things. Some instructors also might require you to come to the Writing Center, or they might offer extra credit. So since we offer both in-person and virtual sessions, you can receive verification for both different types of sessions. If you come in person, it'll be a little paper that we'll give you. At the Valle Verde Writing Center, we have you answer a question of what it is that you'd like help with, and then at the end of the session, kind of what you learned from the session. And then the tutor will write what it is that they helped you with. If you come virtually, we'll send you an email to your EPCC email, just kind of summarizing what was discussed in the session. We don't necessarily edit your paper. We don't go through and tell you all of the different things that you can fix. We try to focus on, like I said, 3 things that you might be struggling with and only work on those. I do want to say that you're not limited to just one session per assignment, so you can come as many times for the same assignment if you'd like. If you feel like you're having a hard time with certain things, or if they worked on certain things with you this time, they might focus on other things another time. So anytime you feel stuck in your writing process, you can come in and we can help guide you through that. So this is kind of what a breakdown of a session would look like. When you first arrive, both in person and virtually, we'll ask you for your EPCC ID number and then the class that you're visiting for, if it is for a class. We'll also ask you if you need proof that you came in. That way we can fill out the form for you and give it to you so you can answer those questions. Once you're paired with your tutor, you'll be asked a couple of questions of what it is you're working on. So what kind of essay is this maybe? Is there anything that you felt like you had a hard time with when approaching this assignment? Is there anything that you want me to focus on? Those kinds of things. That way they know how to help you the best. And then after they'll go through and read through, they might mark some things, and then they'll discuss those with you at the end of the session. And then if anything you feel like is not clear still, you can always ask any questions. That way you make sure that everything is clear and you're understanding what it is they're suggesting to you. And that's pretty much how a session will go. Like I said, they're about 15 to 30 minutes typically, unless you feel like you need additional help, then they might go a little bit longer. Yeah. So this is how you can visit us virtually. You'll go to our website, epcc.edu/services/writing center, and these are our hours of operation. So Monday through Friday, we're open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then also Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We also have a couple of resources available to you virtually. Our handouts, we have the same versions of them in person, but you can access them from home as well. And that can be done through our website, the one that I mentioned before, epcc.edu/services/writing center, or through the EPCC library, through the, I think they're called the resource guides. There's one for EPCC resources and writing centers there, and it has all of the same things as well as the LibGuides. That's the one. That's the one. It's under there, under writing center, and it's the same ones that we have on our website, and the videos that are there as well, the YouTube videos. If you go through our website, when you click on the My EPCC resources, there will be a blue button towards the top that says Writing Center videos, and that'll take you directly to our Writing Center YouTube playlist. And then we also have Grammarly EDU, which is available to you through your tuition. And we can help you create the account. It's pretty easy. I'll go over it in, I think, the next slide. Oh, okay, no, this is how you'll access the other resources. I kind of already covered this a little bit, but these are the links that you can go to find them as well. So this is for Grammarly EDU. It's very important that you go to the EDU sign-up page rather than just the general sign-up page, because even if you use your EPCC email on the general sign-up page, you won't get access to the EDU version. So when you are creating your Grammarly account, you want to make sure it's grammarly.com/edu/signup. And then it'll ask you for your EPCC email, your name, and then you'll create a password. And from there, you can download it onto your computer to use whenever you're writing. You can also access it in your browser. You can add it as an extension to your browser. And there's actually this really new cool feature that they just added to Google Docs. So if you're using Grammarly and Google Docs, they have a feature called Authorship Report, which I think is super helpful, especially in this age of AI. And it, I lost my train of thought. It can record your screen while you're writing, and it'll let your instructor know anytime you're actually typing things out versus when you're copying and pasting. If things are cited, it'll let your instructor know where it came from, versus like everything coming from an AI. So it lets your instructor know what is authentically you versus what has been copied and pasted, and it can provide the source for it as well. So that's a really cool feature. You can also visit us in person, and that's available to you Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in room A1425, and then Fridays from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is for the Valle Verde campus, but I'll provide the room numbers and hours for the other campuses in a bit as well. At the Valle Verde campus, we do have a couple of in-person resources that are available to you. The handouts are the exact same ones that you'll find on our website, but they're printed out for you, and you can take whichever ones you might feel are helpful for you, or your tutor might bring them into your session and show them to you to provide you with more examples of things that they might be covering during your session. We also have textbooks available to you to use in the Writing Center. There are a lot of the textbooks that you might be using in your English classes, so you can always borrow them. You can't take them from the center, but you're able to use them and read through them there in the center. We also have a little free library, our Take a Book, Leave a Book, and those books are free for you all to take. You can take whichever books you want to add to your own library. You can read them there in the center. And if you have any books that you no longer want, you can also donate them, and we'll have them there available for students to take as well. Okay, so these are the hours and room numbers for the other locations. Like I said, there is a writing center at every campus. So at Mission del Paso, they're located in room E111, and they're available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Northwest has kind of a little bit of different hours. They're available Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. They are closed on Wednesdays, and they are open on Thursdays from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. They are located in room A104. At Rio Grande, it's Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in room B403. They recently moved, so they're in a new location, and this is their new location in B403. At Trans Mountain, they're available Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. in room 1200. And I can leave that screen there for you all a little bit if anyone wants to take pictures of it or write that down. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So at the Valle Verde Writing Center, we've been having a couple of writing workshops, which are to help you all learn a little bit more about writing and how you can incorporate it for your classes. We had one on writing emails earlier this semester, and then yesterday we had one on thesis and topic sentences, but we have another one coming up next month, towards the end of the month. They're always on Thursdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Our next one is going to be on research and incorporating sources, and it'll be in our room in A1425. And these kind of just covered the basics on these different subjects. But if you have specific questions or you're working on an essay where you might need to apply these things, you can bring your questions or your prompts, and we can focus on those things as well during these workshops. Okay, so these are some of the frequently asked questions that we receive at the Writing Center. First, this one's probably the most frequently asked question of our frequently asked questions. Can I drop off my essay? So as I mentioned before at the beginning of this presentation, our sessions aim to be collaborative, and we want to help you strengthen your skills. So we don't allow students to drop off their essays or email them to us. We want you to be present in the session so that you can have all of your questions answered, and nothing is lost in translation or communication the way it might be if you just drop off your essay and someone writes notes on it. So we want you to be active participants in the session. Our next question is, who can visit the Writing Center? So our services are not only available to EPCC students, faculty, and staff, but we're also open to the community. So even after you finish your classes here at the college, you're still able to come and see us, and we're able to assist you, because like I said, it doesn't have to be for a class. So even if you're working on your resume, a cover letter, scholarship applications, if you write creatively, poems, short stories, or even if you're writing an email to somebody, you can come and have somebody look it over. So that service will be available to you even after you finish your classes here. Some other questions. So does my essay need to be complete to have a session? So no, like I said, you can come at any point in your writing process. So at the very beginning, when you first receive the assignment, if you're not sure how to begin, you can come in all the way through until your final edits. And do I need to work with a tutor to visit the Writing Center? So no, you can also come in and work on your own if you want to visit us in person. You can work on your own. We have computers that are available to you. You can print, you can work on your own, you can read, you can borrow some of the books that we have available to you as well. Yeah. Okay, so this is how you can contact us. The room number is the one here for the Valle Verde Center, but you can email us at epccwc@epcc.edu. And that's just a general, for all of the writing centers, we all kind of share that email. So we'll direct your email accordingly. Our website again, epcc.edu/services/writing center. And our phone number for the Valle Verde campus is 831-2149. Yeah, okay, does anybody have any questions?
All right. Well, if there's no questions for Ms. Zuniga, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next presentation. That will be, I'm going to put it up right now, the Center for Students with Disabilities, presented by John Estrada. And like I said, Ms. Zuniga is still in the room, so should you have any questions, please put them in the chat and let us know. All yours, Mr. Estrada. Mr. Estrada, I don't hear you. You might need to turn up your volume or turn off your microphone and turn it back on. Still no luck. Might need to unplug your headphones. All right. Another suggestion could be refreshing the browser screen. Sometimes that fixes issues within Blackboard. See if maybe if you refresh your browser. I mean, it's always good for us to know how to fix things when we have issues in Blackboard. So no harm there, right? Good troubleshooting. It's surprising sometimes how simple the fixes can be, and hopefully it helps out. Mr. Estrada, you want to try your mic? Uh-oh. I see you, John. I see you, but I don't hear you. What we can also do is if you're, you can do long distance for your phone for audio, or we can try to read the slides for you while you figure out what's going on with the mic. So you can dial in for sometimes and get the audio to work that way. You go down on Blackboard, you click on the gear, then you click on audio and video settings, and then you click on pin for audio. Settings, and then, yeah. Okay, well, while we wait, we're going to be discussing the Center for Students with Disabilities. This is a departmental overview. Let's go. All right, eligibility. The Center for Students with Disability provides students, regardless of disability, if otherwise qualified, an equal opportunity to complete their educational goal through the provision of accommodations based upon their individual disability. Students with disabilities, permanent or temporary, are eligible to receive services through the Center of Disabilities. Students must self-identify and provide documentation of their disability to a CSD counselor when registering with CSD. A while back, I actually learned kind of an interesting thing. You know, women who are pregnant or expecting, they can register through CSD and maybe get like a closer parking space temporarily. Or if you're having like motion sickness in the mornings, there's some accommodations for that as well. And so that would be an example of a temporary disability. A permanent disability would be, you know.
Hello?
Hey, John.
Well, yes.
Oh,
Okay, here we go.
I am not doing
right.
your PowerPoint justice. Let me promote you to moderator.
Thank you.
All right, and it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulty there, but that is what happens when we're doing these virtual events, correct? So yes, good afternoon. My name is John Estrada, and I represent the Center for Students with Disabilities. I am the Recruitment, Transition, and Training Coordinator. So what I do is I do promotion for our department. I was a tutor for our department for about 15 years. As far as which students are eligible to receive services through our department, it is technically any student that identifies with a disability. So regardless of disability, if it is intellectual, cognitive, or a physical disability, if it is temporary or permanent, we can provide a service. The thing is, though, that students need to come and identify with us. They need to self-identify. They need to let us know that they have a disability and would like to receive a service through our department. But yeah, and we do need documentation. So because we do work with a lot of students that are coming from the high schools, many times we have students that have an ARD or an IEP or a 504 plan. That is documentation that is valid. Many times we also have veterans that come in, veterans from the military, and sometimes they were discharged with a disability. And so that is valid as well. Technically, anything that has any sort of diagnosis or something that identifies a disability from a doctor or a diagnostician, that is what we need in order to approve of the services. So there is a difference between the services that we provide here at the college level as opposed to the services that are provided at the high school level. At the high school, many students receive modifications as far as their content goes, meaning that sometimes the students get reduced homework or don't have to answer as many questions on a test. That's not going to happen here at the college level. So every single student that is enrolled here at EPCC, regardless of disability, has to do the same amount of work. But that's where we come in. That's where we provide support. I will describe the services and accommodations that we provide in a bit. But just to be aware of that, if we do have any high schoolers or high school students in the room right now, just that you understand that there are differences there between what you do receive in high school as opposed to what you do receive here at the college. So the documentation, this is what I just described earlier. The documentation should verify that a student has a disability and is entitled to accommodations. And like I mentioned, it should be prepared by a professional individual. And I already provided those examples, the 504 plan, the ARD, the IEP, or a diagnosis. Now, when a student comes in and if they do not have those documents at hand, we can provide them with some leeway. We give them the semester or a couple of weeks for them to bring that documentation in. We can approve of the services at the beginning if they need the services, but the student will have to come in and bring in that documentation at some point. Um, so as far as the process, how does a student, what does a student need to do in order to receive services with our department? Well, like I said, the very first step is that the student needs to enter into our department. They need to physically come in, or they can call or do a virtual call with one of our counselors. Regardless, that student does need to self-identify. They need to let us know that they would like to receive a service. The student must also bring in that documentation that I just described. And so once the student has completed what is called an intake form with us, we gather some basic information from the student, some contact information so we can call or email the student as well. Once we have done that process, then we will make an appointment with one of our counselors. Now, we do have a counselor at each of the EPCC campuses. EPCC has 5 campuses, so we do have an office at each of those campuses, and there is a counselor at each of those campuses as well. Sometimes the counselors rotate, and so the counselor might not be at their home campus on a given day, but that's why it is best that the students call in advance and schedule their appointment just to make sure that they can meet with their counselor whenever it is that they scheduled to meet with them. Once the student does meet with our counselor, the student will discuss their disability and how it affects them in the classroom. Now, none of our accommodations are retroactive. What that means is that if a student decides to come into our office to receive services halfway through the semester, and if they've already taken one test and gotten a low grade on that test, if the student wants extra time for testing, we can provide them with the extra time for testing, but it'll be for after they come in to receive the services. We cannot go back and tell the instructor, you know what, this student, they want to retake their first test because they got a low grade and they want more time on it. No, we cannot do that. So the best thing for the student to do is to come in at the beginning of the semester or right before the semester begins in order to verify services with our department. Confidentiality, we do fall under FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which means that any information that is provided to us from the student, we cannot disclose any of that information to anybody. So none of the instructors, none of the tutors here, not even the parents. If a student comes in and enrolls with our services, or registers with our services, all of the information that they provide to us will be kept confidential. And if a parent comes and asks to, like ask for some sort of information regarding their child, we cannot disclose that information. The student has to give permission in order for us to release any information to anybody. Like I mentioned earlier, each EPCC campus does have a Center for Students with Disabilities lab site. At the end of this presentation, I do have the room numbers and the contact information. But yes, just be aware that we do have an office at each EPCC campus. So some of our services can be provided virtually as well. It depends on the situation. So virtual tutoring, we do provide virtual tutoring. We do need to verify that the student will receive tutoring from one of our tutors beforehand, though. That's what the counselor does. Let me see. So here we go. What is it that we actually do? What are the types of services and accommodations that we provide to the students? So we provide note-taking and scribing services. With a note-taking service, that's when we do this a couple of different ways, but one way is where we purchase the notes from one of the students in the classroom. in order to provide those notes to the student who needs the notes. Another way is that our department, sends a staff member to act as a note taker to that classroom for the student who needs the notes. And so that note taker will sit there in the classroom and they will take whatever notes it is that the lecture is about, or that the class session is about. Those notes will then go to the student immediately after class. Otherwise, those notes can be dropped off here in our offices in a folder for the student, and that student can pick up those notes at a later time. We also have a digital app called Glean. Glean, it's like just what I just said. It's a note-taking app, and we would provide this service for free to our students. And so what the app does, or we would provide the license to the student, I should say. Um, what Glean does, it makes a recording of the audio of whatever the lecture is about. The student can use this in the classroom setting. They can also use this virtually. But what Glean does, it makes that recording of the lecture, and then it also transcribes it into a Word document. So that way, when the student goes back to review their notes or review the recording, they can re-listen to the recording, and they can also read along to the transcript as well. So that way that the student can read and listen to the lecture at the same time. Sometimes that helps the students focus when they're studying. We also provide sign language interpretation services. So if there is a student who needs a sign language interpreter in their classes, we can send those interpreters to the classes to interpret for the student. If that student who needs the sign language interpretation is also attending an EPCC related event, we can also send those interpreters to that event to interpret for that student. Tutoring, we provide one-to-one face-to-face tutoring. We can do that in our office, in one of our cubicle spaces, or we can do it online as well. We can provide virtual tutoring to our students as well. So the tutoring can be scheduled, which is preferable because that's what most of our students do. That way the student has their schedule with their tutor. The student knows that they're going to meet with the tutor 2 times a week or 3 times a week from some given time to another given time. Or the student can also just walk in. We do have walk-in tutoring available in the case that the student does need that. We also provide reading services. So if a student comes in and needs a block of text or a short passage or a short story or a chapter of a book read to them, we can do that as well. We also, like I mentioned earlier, we have our own counselors. Here we do have 5 of our counselors. Like I said, we have 5 campuses. We have 5 counselors. And so some of these counselors, they rotate between campuses, but typically the counselors stay at their home campus. So the counselors can, they validate or verify the need for services and accommodations. If a student needs direction or guidance with their degree plan, the counselors can help with that as well. Also, if the student is in a moment of crisis and if the student needs to speak to somebody, then the student can speak to their counselor in order to troubleshoot or get counseling for their situation. Um, One of our biggest services is the testing accommodation. This is one of the bigger ones that comes over from the high school level. So we do provide extra time for testing, and our testing proctor can also do the reading for the test, and also the proctor can write down the answers for the student if the student needs for the proctor to do that. We do have here at the Valle Verde campus, we do have a little testing center in our office. And so the students, when they come in to test with us, they will have the opportunity to sit in a quiet room with less distractions than a typical classroom. And like I said, there is a testing proctor or a testing specialist who would then provide the test to the student. And like I'm saying, if the student needs for the specialist to write down the answer and read the questions to them, the testing specialist can do that as well. We also do provide assistive technology, adaptive and assistive technology to our students as needed. Here we do have some listening devices and something called the Ruby magnifier. So these are devices that can amplify sound and vision, or images, we'll say. And so these are to benefit of those students who have visual impairments or hearing impairments as well. Most of this technology is available here at the Valle Verde campus, but at our satellite campuses like Northwest, Mission del Paso, Rio Grande, and Trans Mountain, we can provide technology as well. Here at the Valle Verde campus, we do have a computer lab, and we do have sort of like computer labs at the other departments as well at the satellite campuses. It's just that we have the largest computer lab here in our department at Valle Verde. Regardless if the student does need any of these of this technology, or if they need to come in and use one of our computers, they need to print out some material, they can do that as well. We have computer lab assistants who can help out with any issues in the computer labs as well. Did I skip something? No. Okay. So our department, Center for Students with Disabilities, we do recognize the fact that there are students or some students that need a service animal. And so we do respect that. We do not keep a registry of these animals though. So I know that recently, in the last couple of years, emotional support animals have really come. It's bigger now, right? Right in our culture. We do not recognize those emotional support animals because those are not trained animals. Service animals are trained. Service animals typically have a vest or something that identifies that they are a service animal. And so we do understand that some students need the use or have service animals that they need to use. Um, we only do recognize two types of service animals, which are dogs and miniature ponies. So I have not seen a miniature pony here on campus yet, but that doesn't mean we might not see one in the future. That there's, if a student has a miniature pony as a service animal, then we have to respect the fact that that student has a miniature pony as a service animal. And these animals can go with the students anywhere on campus that that student needs to go to. So the classrooms, the libraries, the other tutoring labs. So that is just something that we need to make aware to the general population of students and also to our staff that if a student comes in with a service animal, then we need to respect the fact that that individual has that service animal. So once again, how does a student register or request accommodations and services from us? Well, the student needs to first come to our department and self-identify. We are not going to go to the classrooms and look for students. We're not going to tell them, hey, we need you to come into our department because we know you need support from us. No, we do go and make announcements in classrooms about our services, but the students have to come to us. The students have to self-identify. Many times students don't want to because maybe they're embarrassed or because of the stigma associated with disabilities, but that really doesn't matter. If the student needs the service, then they should come to us. Um, the students who need our services deserve the same level of education that all of the other students are receiving, and that's just what we do. So for any of you students who feel that you may need support from us, don't feel embarrassed. You know, like I said earlier, we do work with students that have temporary disabilities. An example of a temporary disability would be if a student is in a car crash and they break their arm. If that student is in a cast for 2-3 months and they cannot use their arm, and that's their writing arm, then that is a disability. That is a temporary disability, and in that case, we can provide the note taking and the scribing and so on. So once again, the student needs to come and self-identify with us. They need to bring in the relevant documentation that identifies the disability. The student will fill out an intake form with us. That's when they provide us with that basic contact information. Then we will set up an appointment for that student to meet with one of our counselors. And once the student and the counselor sit down to talk about how our department can help them, the counselor will verify those services, and the student can then enjoy those services. The student does need to speak to our campus coordinator after they speak to the campus, to our counselor. I'm sorry. So after the student speaks to the CSD counselor, they will then be sent to go speak to our campus coordinator, who is the individual who schedules the tutoring and the note taking. Like I said earlier, our services are not retroactive, so the best thing for the student to do is to come in before the semester begins or at the very beginning of the semester in order to approve of their services. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have an office at each of the EPCC campuses. Here we have the contact information. And I think something happened with the PowerPoint. I think some of the information got cut off here. I think it's just the way that I set up the PowerPoint. So the room numbers are not listed here. But if anybody does have any questions, please take a screenshot of this image or take a photo on your phone, and please call our offices so that we can direct you to where you need to go on campus in order to visit with us. Here at the Valle Verde campus, we are in the C building where the subway is at. We're on that first floor right above the bookstore. We're actually immediately right above the bookstore. So if any student needs to come in for any reason, even if the student just wants to get some information from maybe a friend or a sibling who is planning on taking classes here, and if they need support from us, then they can do so. But yes, there we have our phone numbers and our email, csd@epcc.edu. So remember that we do have an office at each EPCC campus. The students can visit with us physically in person. They can call us, and they can also visit with us virtually. I don't think I have the virtual link here. But that's what we do. That's what CSD is. Does anybody have any questions?
Is there any questions for Mr. Estrada or Ms. Zuniga about the Writing Center or the Student Center for Students with Disabilities? Well, if not, I'm going to go ahead and share our sessions coming up. But if you happen to think of one, you can still raise your hand, turn on your mic, or type it in the chat. I'd like to take a moment to thank Mr. Estrada and Ms. Zuniga for presenting for us today, sharing about these different resources for our EPCC students. I just wanted to thank y'all for presenting. I'd like to thank the audience for coming in today and sharing their Friday with us. And then I would like to invite you all to next week's sessions. At the same link at 11 o'clock, we will be having Happy Math Hour, Math 1314 with synthetic division and complex numbers. For Math 1324, we'll be solving exponential and logarithmic equations. And then at 1 p.m. at the same link, we'll be having a presentation done by the Veterans Resource Center. Thank you all for coming today, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.